exceptions. On a regular basis, we won't leave you guessing. Setting things in motion and answering questions. Come and take a listen if you want to learn a lesson. Decontaminating and sterilizing. So much work goes into it, no one realizes. But we take it serious when we're on the scene. Keeping it beyond clean before every surgery. Splish splash, we're doing a thing for the clean breaks. We're heavy on the scene. We got it going on, running 5 years strong. We're fighting so dirty, yet keeping it clean. Yeah. Splish splash, we're doing a thing for the clean freaks. We're heavy on the scene. We got it going on, running 5 years strong. Hey, shout out to Sterile Processing.
What's up, Sterile Processing Universe? It's Hank Balch here from Beyond Clean. You are watching the first ever, the world premiere of Biobourbon, Sterile Processing on the Rocks, and got some great guests with us today in the studio, live in person. I'm actually touching him right now. If I could reach over there, I would touch it. There you go. Yep. Yeah. So we are live, and we don't do a lot of this on Beyond Clean. Everyone in the same room, of course. We launched in 2017 before COVID, all digital, all across the country. Then COVID, obviously, everyone had to be digital. It's really nice, though, to be coming back together again in person to have these kinds of cool, exciting, unique conversations. So thank you for tuning in this afternoon, kind of in the middle of your afternoon, especially if you're on the West Coast out there. But we're going to get into a lot of fun topics. Before we do that today, I would like to know who's tuning in and where you're tuning in from. You can drop that in the comment section below if you're watching on LinkedIn, YouTube, or Twitter. As we get into that, though, I'm going to turn it over to our illustrious guest here to introduce themselves and give us a little insight into maybe let's just say how you got into sterile processing. That's always a fun question. Start with you, Sean.
All right. Well, Sean Weir, currently the system educator for a health system. So I oversee 40-some hospitals. How I got into the field was kind of I applied for a random job, knew nothing about it. My background was video production, and I landed the job. And here I am 13 years later, hanging out with you.
Dude, video production. I did not know that you had that skill set.
Yep.
I think we're gonna have to talk after this. All right. And who we got over there?
Hey guys. Hi. I'm Deannard, Esnard. I am 12 years into this sterile processing field. I got into sterile processing. I used to be a personal driver, if most people didn't know. And then I felt like I wanted to do something more. I like solving problems, so I took a course and ended up in sterile processing, and I love it. And I don't feel it's my job. I feel it's something I love to do, and I can do it 24 hours a day.
So y'all all kind of started around the same time as me. I started 2009. So you said
2009.
Okay.
10.
Wow, that's kind of cool. Yeah. So we've seen a lot of the industry transitions in the same career timeline along the way too. So like we started prior to the explosion of digital content and resources. Like we were all out there, new techs, looking around, what's out there for me to learn. And I think, we all were a little disappointed back in 2009, 2010 about what was out there. So maybe we're getting into a little bit of that. But we already got some great comments coming in here. And for those of you all tuning in live, I would love to hear what you want us to talk about. It's not often that the three of us to sit down together to talk about the industry. So Dante Jones tuning in from Philly. What's up, Dante? He's already volunteered himself for round 2 of a Biobourbon. He was upset he didn't get the first invite, but you're coming back for round 2, Dante. Yeah, what do you, question-wise, like, what are you thinking out there, D, on the trajectory of the industry, trends in the industry, questions that you want to hear Sean or Deannard speak to, please drop it in the comment and we will make time on this stream to get to it. Valeria, what's up, Valeria? Great contact here. We've actually worked together throughout the years on various projects. Got a lot of respect out there in LA. So tuning in on the early side of things. Thank you for tuning in. And yeah, just like we said to Dante, I'd love, Valerie, if you got any specific questions for us that you want to hear, the hot takes on, please drop it in the comments and we'll get to it. Doug Arnold, the bourbon brought him in here. Okay, so what are we drinking? Yeah, we should have started with that. Probably. Yeah. So let's do a little bit cheers here. To Sterile Processing, may we fight dirty 24/7.
Cheers.
So what are we drinking? I'm gonna go grab the bottle here, and actually, Sean, I'll get yours too if you don't mind.
No, sir.
Nope.
Russell's Reserve, 10-year-old,
and that's Kentucky, right?
bourbon.
Yep. And 99.9% of the best bourbon and whiskey out there comes from Kentucky, obviously, but here's an exception. We got a Wyoming whiskey here, and this is a national parks, and there's a handful in this season or in this series of the national parks, so you should check it out. Really smooth, and this is what Deannard and I started with tonight. And yeah, like, I don't know about you, Deannard, but I have never been a big kind of whiskey bourbon drinker, but I drank this and I was like, this is one I can appreciate.
Yeah, I like this one. It's really smooth, as you said. I hope I don't pass out the next couple of minutes.
Is it smoother than Heineken?
Yeah. It's smoother than no. I rather my Heineken.
That's right. Yeah. We were talking about preferences before we got on the show, and it came out that Deannard is a Heineken guy. So if Heineken's looking for someone to sponsor out there, Deannard, he'll wrap you on his shirt. So tuning in, yeah, that's the answer to your question there, Doug. Thank you for tuning in. Love to hear from you. Elizabeth Berry from Erie, PA, got some PA representation going on here, Sean. No surprise. Yeah. Yeah, if you got any questions or comments throughout the show, Elizabeth, please drop them in the comment section. Another shout out there from Valeria. What's up? So how many drinks until we get into some fun questions is what Dante wants to ask. All right, well, let's start right now. The first question that I wanted to kind of tackle, and this is kind of the topic or that theme, I guess. There's a couple of questions that come into it, but chapter support. You guys were in the industry, during and through COVID. You saw the impact that COVID and all the separation everything had on the whole world, but chapters in particular. And I'm kind of curious to get both of y'all's perspectives coming out on the other side, hopefully now. What's the status of chapters? What are the current challenges out there at the local level? And then we'll talk about, some of the aspects of solutions for that. But yeah, you want to start us off, Dee?
So I'm a president-elect of the Mid-Atlantic Central Services Association.
Bravo. Congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Some of the issues we have or the struggles we have is finding members who will participate, finding members who are engaged, who won't simply pay a membership fee and go about their way. So I think one of the ways, and I usually jump from thing to thing when I'm talking. So I think one of the ways to get persons engaged is to provide them with education. Example, Beyond Clean helps with providing webinars for chapters on a regular basis. I've seen them, and hopefully in the future they will host one for Maxa, my chapter.
I mean, the very near future, I think we're going to be down there at Atlantic City this
they're going to be at Atlantic City at our November conference this weekend. So one of the things I believe is one of the struggles for chapters is to get persons engaged on a regular basis, not once a year when there's a conference, or every other day, every other month when there's a online event, but on a day-to-day basis, keep them involved, provide education and information for them throughout the year.
So let me ask a follow-up on that, Deannard, because that is what I'm hearing across the industry. Everybody talks about membership and engagement, because there's some groups out there that have a pretty large membership, but nobody's showing up. And when it comes time for leadership, no one's standing up and saying, I want to do this thing. So it's always a struggle. But, to that point about engagement, like in your perfect world, in your perfect chapter, what would a highly engaged chapter membership look like? Like, what are the concrete things that you would expect or hope for them to be doing on kind of a daily, weekly basis?
Yeah. So provide education. You have to partner with the schools, partner with social media experts such as Beyond Clean, and keep your folks engaged, keep your members engaged. Provide CEs for them so they won't have to go outside and other places for continuing education.
I love that. Like, I just want to stop you there. We all know that our members require CEs, and we know how many CEs they require, depending on if they're HSPA or if they're CBSPD. So yeah, sit down as a chapter leader and say, hey, we're going to guarantee you guys at least 12 CEs a year to check off the CRCST. Like, that's like bottom level. If your chapter's not doing that, I really want to challenge you to lay it out in 2023 and say, we're going to check off that 12 CE box. There's more. If you're CBSPD, like, you got a lot of CEs over 5 years, you got to be gathering up. If you got multiple certifications, obviously you need even more than 12, but that should be bottom line. Yeah. So sorry, but that was a great point.
No, that's fine. That's fine. That's definitely a good point. And engagement. You want to make it personal to your members. You don't want them to feel like they're just another number. So engaging them. Hey, let Sally know. Let John know. Hey, your certification is about to expire. I have a couple C's there for you. All you have to do is go sign in, fill out the information, do the test, watch the video, etc., and you get your C's. You have to. It's a lot more legwork, but keeping your team, your members engaged will definitely help you grow more members, because they will tell people, hey, how did when somebody asks, how did you get your CEs? Hey, my chapter. Oh, yeah. Chapter. I never heard of that. Boom. Hey, sign up, get your membership, and then it's an easy path to getting your C's every year.
I love that. I would love for the answer to always be, I got my CEs at the chapter. If that was everybody's answer, it would be a wonderful world out there, because that localized education, speaking to what the challenges are, and this is kind of where I want to go to you, Sean. Like, every area of the country has some shared challenges, but specifically where you are, there's often those kind of thematic challenges that, just in this area, for some reason, we're all struggling with the same thing. And it would be great if chapters could identify that, and then, like Deannard, create education creatively to speak to that at the chapter level. But yeah, what are you seeing, post-COVID in your chapter, or the chapter leaders and stuff you're talking to? What's the dynamic, I guess, out there? How would you say that?
So I've been the chapter president for the Western PA for 7 years now. This will be my 7th year running in it.
Nice.
I try to get rid of it, and they just love me so much, right?
It's like a boomerang. You throw it away, and it comes on back.
But I mean, and the point is, the off topic of that is, people don't understand how much it is and how tiresome it is to be a president. It's not easy. It's almost like another full-time job. To set up a conference,
I mean, you could do it right. Yeah.
Get the food, get the certificates, get both certification bodies approvals. It's really like another full-time job for
all the communication. Yeah.
But I have gone from building my chapter from 30 members to 55 to 60. COVID hit. I had my first chapter meeting in person in the springtime, and I had 10 people show.
Wow.
And I did 2 sessions virtual, and I only had 10 people attend them virtual too. So I usually do 12 a year, 6 in the spring, 6 in the fall.
Oh, you do the 12. Okay.
I do the 12.
Great point. Yeah.
I didn't do one in the fall because personal reasons. Right now I'm very busy getting things ready for what I'm working on. And, it was kind of a letdown, kind of, threw me back. I went from 60 people down to 10.
Right.
So they got fed very well. But I mean,
plenty of food
left over. But yeah, I mean, it's a hardship. It's usually the veterans that come, the newer age, the younger age, we'll call them. They want to be paid to come. And they don't want to have it be just.
I have heard that. Yeah, I have heard that out there in the space. Deannard, have you heard kind of conversations around that?
I have not heard much about that,
Okay.
but my solution to that is start with the schools. Join with the schools. My buddy Dante will probably agree with me. The chapter should join with the schools. Join with knowing that the schools aren't sanctioned by any other governing bodies,
Mhm.
SPD or HSPA, but you want to push the chapter concept to the students coming up. So
Get
when
them
they
while
get
they're young.
right. So when they get out, you're not going to every other general hospital trying to pick up people from those facilities. You have a class of 10, 12, sometimes 20, 30 individuals. You could get at least 10% of that class. If you get 10% of every class, your chapter will grow exponentially in the next couple of months.
Not only the chapter, but your staffing levels across the health systems too.
That's a great point. Yeah. Yeah. So to that kind of disappointment experience, right? I think a lot of our chapters have gone through that. And it's not just a disappointment on the part of the leader, who does all the organizing. It's a disappointment on the part of the members, who show up, because we all want to go someplace where there's a lot of people. Like that's part of the energy and the excitement about these events. It's also a disappointment to vendors. And as we all know, a lot of what it takes, just like you said, like it takes a leader to get all these things organized, communicate, and everything else. But without our vendor partners sponsoring these events, paying for the food, like giving us the funds to reserve the places that we host these things, it's very difficult to run a chapter on a zero budget or just on the funds that you get, from membership dues. And that disappointment, that COVID disappointment, I think is a reality out there, because a lot of these vendors now today, they're looking at these meetings and they're saying, it was one thing if there were 60 people showing up or 100 people showing up, for us all to pay like $1,000, $2,000, per table to get there. It's a little harder to make the case up the chain if there's 10 or 12 people showing up. Not that, there's still a purpose for it, right? So I'm not trying to argue vendors into this position, right? But I'm just saying, like, this is the reality out there today. So do you guys have any ideas on how we can, hit the refresh, hit the reset button on these chapters, on these events? Like, is it something that we need to disrupt? Go ahead.
You want to go first?
Yes, you have to diversify your message. You can't be sending out random emails to email addresses you have no idea that work. So you have to you have to diversify your message. There's LinkedIn, Facebook, there are other social media platforms, chapters. Create those accounts, create those LinkedIn accounts, create those, even Instagram, create the Twitter account for your chapter. Diversify your message, especially because the age of sterile processing professionals is actually lowering right now. So you want to be on those platforms. Even your TikTok. Get on TikTok and create some videos so that you could, relay a younger message. If that's not discriminatory, relay a younger message to your audience. That's just my 2 cents on that.
I was just going to say, get them engaged, show me excitement of coming to a vendor show. Most of the time people don't get a chance, and this was just brought up too, about the expense of the annual conference.
Yeah.
If you have a vendor show at your chapter meetings, you can have the same experience, not as vast, but a little smaller in compass. I mean,
a whole lot cheaper.
I try to get 10 to 20 vendors to come to showcase the products, new things, new ideas, and come out and talk about it. So that's another way to get the excitement out about it.
I love that.
And the thing is, too, since you mentioned vendors, vendors are people just like everybody
Vendors
else.
are people, too. That's a takeaway. Okay.
So don't just come to your vendor only when you have a conference, seminar, etc. Partner with your vendor throughout the year, and they want stuff in return. Put your vendor name on your website. Put them on your other accounts. Say, hey,
on your t-shirt.
On your t-shirt. Say, hey, this person is sponsoring me. This person was at our last show. Don't just showcase them once or twice a year, because they don't get much value out of that, especially for the prices of tables nowadays.
Yeah.
Great.
We got a lot of comments here coming through, so I kind of want to speak to some of those. I want to thank everybody for getting busy down there in the comment section. So we got a comment here from Lindsay. If you're familiar with Beyond Clean, everyone knows Lynn. She's one of her VPs over there. Cheers, Lynn. There you go. She says there's a lot of murmurings about mentorship programs or the lack thereof. And she feels like chapters in schools paired up can solve that issue really well. So what do you think about that, Sean? Mentorship. Go ahead.
Well, I guess there's no shy thing about it now. I kind of created my own program for getting certified across the system that I work for. And it gets people through the content in about 10 weeks.
Okay.
8 to 10 weeks is about the time frame. 10 weeks, you have your 400 hours, basically, in a true world, right?
Right.
We go through the book, we study, we write essays, we take quizzes, we take a mock final exam. And this is a systematic way to standardize the onboarding approach to bringing on new hires. How often have we seen in the past that a new hire would get paid to read the book, study, and prepare for certification? So now,
that's what I did. Yeah.
Where I'm working at now, we have that ability, and the people who have gone through the program have relayed that they feel better supported to get certified, more prepared to get certified.
Yeah. And so what about the mentorship piece of that then, Deannard? Because, Sean's talking about training, baseline training, which I feel like you're right. There's been a historic gap in the facility level for getting that done. It's kind of been like, get your training outside somewhere. Like schools have been great, but there's a lot of like, online training programs, there's self-study training programs. But then after that technician gets certified, and the question is then what? How do they grow, and how do we hardwire this kind of mentorship culture into the industry? Do you got any feedback on that?
I do.
So if he does it, then I do.
Okay. And we got a bunch of other comments here about mentorships that are coming through. So I just want to get to some of that here in a minute. But yeah, go ahead.
In
Deannard.
the wild, wild west of sterile processing, training, mentorships, and consulting, you really don't know who's who has the knowledge. You could go based on their name, based on their views, based on their reputation. But until you actually get that information from them, you really can't discern who's a good mentor or who's not. So I like that's a tough one for me.
What Deannard is saying, I'm going to kind of translate this here for you, is it's very important if you're seeking mentorship to identify that you are getting that mentorship from somebody who you want to be like, who you want to grow your career after, who's not, who hasn't had everything given to them, but has actually worked for it in their career in the industry. Like that's the kind of mentorship to go after. Now, it's not always easy to find that person or those persons out there where you're like, I love the trajectory, I love where they went, and I want to do that too, But to your point, there's a lot of different ways to grow. And that would be kind of my feedback here before I turn it back to you, Sean. I want to challenge folks to not get into the cookie cutter, like this is the way to grow, period. This is the only way to grow. You got to do it this way. When I was growing up in the industry back in 2009, 2010, the way, if you wanted to grow in the industry, was start speaking at conferences. That's the way. Go become a conference speaker, and that's the way that you grow in the industry. And I was like, well, I can't speak, and I get very nervous in front of crowds, so I don't want to do that. So evidently I can't grow. And that's just where I was left, because that was the only advice that was really being given out there. And thankfully a lot has changed in that time, but that would be my challenge. Is there's different ways to do it.
You know what I heard? Wait 5 or 10 years, then try and get into, then you'll be good enough to try and apply for another job.
Yeah. So that was the other part too. I'm really glad you brought that up. There was a lot of do your time, shut up, sit down, do your time, listen to all of us who know more than you, and then you can start having a voice and having an opinion. And then the other thing was, get involved in the political structures of the industry, primarily through the certification bodies. And they were like, if you want to grow, that's the way, the only way, the best way is to get involved politically and then start speaking at conferences. And that's like the model. A lot of people do that, still today. I'm not knocking it. I'm not saying that that's not a way that works, but it is definitely not the only way. And I think today it's not even the best way or the fastest way to grow. Go ahead, John.
So I can recall someone I worked with just recently. I won't mention any names, but this individual.
Thank you for not mentioning the names.
This individual wanted to grow, and there was no one there to mentor them. And during my time frame, I really had no mentorship until probably like 3 years ago, when I had two people mentoring.
Was that Darcy?
It was not
because
Darcy.
She said, yeah, but Sean had an awesome ear that pushed him.
Darcy did push me.
Okay.
But she was not one of my two mentors.
Okay.
Just recently. But this individual was struggling in their current path. And what I did with the individual was I sat them down. We went through their flaws and their pros, the pros and the cons. And I challenged the individual to eliminate 80% of that in a set time frame. And I worked with that individual, and at the end of our time frame, it was down from 30 down to 5 things that person had to work on.
Wow.
They re-educated themselves on.
And these were primarily like
SPD,
sterile processing related
and managerial level type situations.
Great.
So I'm happy that individual actually has taken a promotion step above where they're at now at a fairly large facility.
Okay.
So I'm very proud of that individual.
Are you signing up other mentees? That's maybe a question.
If anyone wants to know how to mentor, I would tell you how to do it and how not to do it. I've had both ways done, not by Darcy though.
Okay.
Darcy left me to move down south, I think it was. But no, so I mean, yeah, you need to have some kind of mentorship if you want to grow into a leadership role, I feel.
We got some more comments here. Dante just says, connect with people on their levels. I think that's another important part to never, I'll say, like down in Texas, we say like get too big for your britches. I don't know if that's a term that, we use up here in Pennsylvania, but to not get, so self-important that you got it all figured out, that people feel like they can't approach you, that you don't care about them, that you don't care about their own personal growth. I think that's very important, again, in the mentorship space. Great feedback there, Dante.
It never ends either, I don't think. The mentorship should never end.
Never. Well, yeah, that's an important concept. So let's kind of talk that through. And actually, before we get into that, I just want to give this quick comment. Cody McElroy says, would love to contribute to a mentorship program. I think there's a lot of folks out there, Cody, and I'm going to pull up, where's Sarah B. Cruz here? There you go. Now, Sarah talks a lot about mentorship through her, what is it called? CSS Nerd.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nerd, yeah.
And it's one of, the many conversations, again, that needs to happen. There is a need. There's a lot of people out there looking for it. It's very hard to find it sometimes locally, because especially if you're in a small facility and you're like one or two of the only technicians. If you want like sterile processing leadership, mentorship, there may not be a leader in your department or even in your area that you respect. And again, going back to the earlier point, that you want to be like, that you want to fashion your career in your growth after, like you may have to really broaden out that diameter there. But there's people who want it and there's people who would be willing to give it. But, back to Sean's point, there's a lot of us who haven't been trained how to be mentors ourselves. We're kind of learning along the way, the hard way. We're trying to help people. We're trying to be honest and transparent, but we're also learning. It's going to take that kind of generational handoff from now we've learned, we've had successful mentors under us or mentees. Now they've got the model to really start now energizing the whole industry. Go ahead, Deannard.
Totally lost my
Okay.
All
right.
It was going so smoothly. I'm like, oh my goodness. Let me listen to Hank. So sometimes you may have to network, something I try and do often, and just simply simply get a little bit from everyone you meet. So that you may get Hank's perspective that may be totally different from what the trajectory you go in. But you may get Sean's perspective and be like, oh, dang, Sean is almost exactly parallel to where I was at, 2-3 years ago. So definitely network, get different perspectives. I mean, a mentor is definitely good, but networking and get different people. Because when I cut that off, when I started sterile processing, the thing I took away from my class that was the most eye-opening was when a vendor came in and said, yeah, if you guys remember TRE back in the day. No? Oh, dang. Well, they were bought up by another company. But anyway, so there was a vendor who came into class and talked about, hey, you could do in-services, you could supply trays, you could be instrument repair tech, etc. And I was like, oh, I could do all of this? Or you could go to the OR and help the surgeons do. And I'm like, oh, dang, this is why I got into this thing, because there is variety, there are options. I don't want to be pigeonholed into one specific thing, decontamination 8 hours a day, all day. You know what I mean? I want to be able to grow. And that's what got me into sterile processing, the aspect of growth that sterile processing provides.
Don't you have a T-shirt though that says that you love decontam or something like that?
Decontam is my thing.
Okay, but not 8 hours a day. Decontam is Deannard's thing. Occasionally, when he feels like it.
I mean, so in the beginning.
So got a lot more folks here showing up. It's getting a little bit later here on the West Coast. I see some West Coast names. We saw Brian say, "What's up and howdy, everyone." Huge supporter of Beyond Clean. I really appreciate this guy. He's always supporting, giving great feedback, attending the events and helping us to grow. So really appreciate you, Brian, tuning in. And I saw our man, Sean Flynn, doing big things out there. Y'all got to watch this guy. I mean, he is all over the place doing some tremendous big picture things. There's more news coming down the pipeline, I'm sure, from him here soon. But if you remember Sean, back, oh man, this is probably 2016, 2017, I guess. This was the guy that almost single-handedly got the Tennessee legislation passed for sterile processing certification. It's a great story because he did it, without tens of thousands of dollars of lobbying money, without any organizational support. He just went in and did what we've been talking about, networking and advocacy on a one-on-one state level. He took the bull by the horns and got it done. So I will forever be indebted to Sean, just, for showing us what is possible when one man gets on fire for something and gets it done. And he's still doing a lot of fun things out there. So thanks for tuning in, Sean.
Awesome.
Thanks, Sean.
Let's speak to a couple more of these comments here, and then maybe we'll switch gears to talk about multi-site sterilization and all the nuance around there, because there's a lot of folks are either one of those multi-sites or you're kind of the parent of all the other multi-sites, but everybody almost now is doing clinics, and that's got its own challenges. So we'll kind of speak to that. But I saw this comment here from Cody, and I just want to give a shout out. He said, had the opportunity to connect with Hank via LinkedIn in 2018, and you got to put yourself out there, do it virtually if you don't feel comfortable doing it in person. Amen. I'm way more comfortable now virtually than I am in person these days. So let's see. Got a comment here from Valeria. She says, education should include how to present yourself as a professional that has compassion for CSP and is willing to move a department or chapter forward. I love that because, yeah, you do. Training. Now, this is something too, maybe we can get back to this, but nobody really teaches you how to be a chapter president.
No.
Just like,
No.
just like there's not.
I was waiting for that class.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe we'll spend some time, teaching each other about that real quick. No. A comment here from Gordon Allen. If y'all don't know Gordon Allen, stop what you're doing right now. Go look him up on LinkedIn, get connected with, because this guy, he is the co-founder, executive director of Beyond Clean UK. Just spun off this past month. They're doing some amazing things. So if you love what you've seen in the US, Beyond Clean, it's coming to the UK. And Gordon has got a tremendous group already of clinicians excited. They see the vision for digital content, and it's happening in the UK. So please get connected with him and support the cause over there. He says he agrees. You need to put yourself out there. And he's found that people really want to help and they appreciate being asked. I think we all agree with that. And I'll just say, as we transition here, I don't know about you guys, but I'm not the most organized guy out there. I lose track of my emails. I lose track of my messages. So just because you email a mentor or a potential mentor and ask them a question or, ask them to do something, if they don't get back to you, it's not because the answer is no. So keep on pushing, right? Okay. Multi-site. You're doing a lot of this nowadays, Sean. Just give us a little context. Maybe start us off there. Like, what are you responsible for in your current role, and maybe highlight some of the challenges you're encountering, and then we can kind of get some feedback from Deannard.
All right. So again, I'm training online, remotely, to 40 hospitals to prepare the new hires to get certified. 40. So again, it's every 8 weeks, 9-10 weeks, we start a new course. I run 2 courses concurrent. So it's, since rolling out in March, I had about 90 students come through my program.
Wow.
With that being said, the hardships I have and, the goals is to have consistency in training, onboarding process. But
yeah, well, let's talk about the onboarding process, because that's
the key thing.
Yeah. And it's actually also to the standardization piece. So Deannard, for onboarding, right? Because I know you've done leadership, you've done education. Like, where are those big gaps, and why can we not get this figured out? Like, it's been a problem since we started.
Man, onboarding. I think a simple way to segregate, a simple way to start onboarding is find out who has experience and who doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
You train the people who have experience different from those who don't have experience. So that as simple as that. And then
I'll take it back on that one though. Not to cut you off, but even if you have experience, I'm gonna still learn your habits, because you might have bad habits too.
True.
So break the bad habits.
True. But you definitely need to break the bad habits, because they're coming in with the knowledge, but not maybe the proper experience or the proper background.
Yeah.
So they know what a Kelly is, they know what the run jaws are, they know how to put trays together, etc. And then you treat them differently. You may start in a different area, you may not give them as much time. Versus those newcomers or new students, you may say, hey, you might need 6 weeks, 8 weeks in one area. And I usually like to start on the clean side.
Thank you very much. Yep, I want to go back to that too, because oh my goodness, that's a debate. No, actually, let's talk about that right now, because this is my show and I can control what we're talking about. No, starting training in decontam, man, like a lot of people start training in decontam, but in my opinion, like that is one of the most dangerous areas of the department to start, and it's critically important. Like, if we miss decontam, we miss the whole shebang. We're sending dirty instruments through. We're not catching all the nuances. We're exposing again that new technician to potential like sharps risks of contaminated sharps. It's like these things have come straight from the patient, not even gone through the washer or anything else. Like, these things are for sure dirty. And we started back there, and that's like a lot of people do that. So like, why did you change that, Deannard, besides everything I said?
Man, I remember I was at a facility, no names, back in the day, and I wanted to change the process. I end up not changing, just to make it a long story. So I end up not changing the process because everyone was so set in, we start in decontam, everybody starts in decontam, we start there. But in my role as a manager now, I start on the clean side. You have to make sure you could see and understand and know the names of what you doing in decontam. Why would you double glove somebody and tell them take something apart for the first time? With blood, Biobourbon, a mask on, a foggy mask on, in a hot PPE. Why would you? It isn't 10 pounds. Why would you try to train somebody at that point? They're not going to retain. They're going to be like, I didn't sign up for this. Let me go home. I'm going to be here for 2 weeks, and I'm going to find another job at Amazon or something.
And that's what I've heard, honestly, is like some people put them back there right away because they want to see if they got what it takes. And I understand that idea, but yeah, for every reason that you said, I think there's just so many other good reasons not to do it that way. And I'm kind of curious for anyone tuning in, agree or disagree, where do you start your training? Do you start it on the dirty side? Do you start on the clean side? Do you start it kind of like what Sean's saying in the classroom? Because I've heard people do that. Like, you don't even get out to the floor after a couple of days, even a couple of weeks in a classroom setting, if you're lucky enough to be able to do that too. But yeah, kind of curious for the audience to hear that perspective. Sean, what about you?
Actually, I want to go back.
Yeah, go ahead.
During my class, they're double dipping.
Okay.
We're getting book knowledge and getting hands-on training.
Yeah.
So I broke down the chapters into week-long sessions, and then depending on what we're learning, that's what they should be working on.
Love that.
So again, learning sterilization, that's actually 6 chapters in the CBSPD or CRCST book. 6 chapters long, basically. That's about 2 weeks long.
Right.
So, give or take time frame on that. But yeah, they're getting hands-on training and the book knowledge for my program. But let's go back to, and this is not a bash against HSPA.
Okay.
I know they're redoing their book, and I'm very thankful that they're redoing it for the 9th edition, coming out sometime next year. But it goes 1 through 6, which is very important chapters, microbiology, regulatory, all those good things. But 7, 8, 9 is actually focused on decontamination. 10, 11, 12 is based on assembly.
Finally.
So
I was just going to ask you that.
So actually I reversed my education. So I teach 10, 11, 12, and then I take a week off.
Right. Yeah, because that's
what
7,
8, 9.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's kind of the mentorship through all the way. I mean,
yeah,
I never paid attention to it because I started out with the 5th edition many moons ago. I don't know if that's why people have the mindset to do decontam first. I don't do it.
Yeah, I think. Going back to what you said, I guess before I answer that, that integrated teaching is very important, and we've gotten feedback, from our new technicians and our preceptors out there who say, hey, they were reading the book, then they got on the table and they started asking all these questions about what they just read. Like that's how you get that insight, deep down in their bones, much more so than just working, and then cutting out and then only doing education, like getting all that mixed in. I appreciate that vision in that program. I've got we got a lot of comments here, so I'm gonna try to get to some of them.
Just ignore Darcy. That's
a
okay.
Key component. No, Darcy, we love you. Thank you so much for tuning in and for giving Sean all this crap. Okay. A key component that a lot of SPDs don't have is a dedicated educator. Yes, this is true. It's extremely difficult to have any kind of onboarding if the expectation to onboard falls on the working supervisor. Ain't that the truth? Or the manager who's just either trying to get through the day or is trying to advocate the department's needs to senior leadership. And, I want to go back to that. Like, we all agree with that comment, right? Everybody agrees with that. Onboarding and training are kind of two different things. I know I've been using them interchangeably here so far, but onboarding is really like that first couple of days, the first week, and then everything, like all the other training. So like onboarding are like the basics. Where's your badge? Where's the fire exit?
Where's the cafeteria at?
Where's the cafeteria?
The food.
And like how many of our technicians though, they get started and their badge is not ready. They can't like badge in and out of the various areas. So they got to go get Johnny to go let him out or let him in. Or, they don't have a locker yet, for the first week. Like, what kind of experience is that for new technicians?
Oh, man, that's a pet peeve of mine, 100%. And, I'll make fun of Darcy because, at the hospital,
sharing the love here.
At the hospital we worked at, I had a hard time, getting my badge working and all that stuff. But as you grow through your career and you take on as the onboarding person, I learned before they came on board, like a week before and the Friday before they started on a Monday, email them. Hey, welcome, blank, blank. When you get to their lobby, give me a call. Here's the number of the department. I'll come up and get you. Or here's how to get to the department, wherever you want to do it. Verify that, they have badge access.
Yep.
Get their system-wide access or, hospital access done. Verify it's done. Go in and check it. When they get there, talk them through all that. And then also I walk them around the whole hospital too and give them a whole tour.
Scrub sizes too.
Scrub sizes. Well, I don't pick the scrub sizes for them. Let them do it themselves.
Yeah. But you want to make sure it's available.
Yes.
So the tour is very important. So I really like that comment there, Sean. And I know it's hard, guys, because we're already short staffed, right? So like you're thinking like, oh man, like we got people starting every week or every other week, it feels like, and to take out a couple of hours every Monday to do this orientation, this onboarding, like it's a lot. I get it. But, if you want to talk about retaining people, like Deannard said, like we got to give them an experience. Now, this is a competitive working environment. People are quitting and going to other hospitals for like 25 cents. You don't think they're going to quit because you treated them like they're just another like piece of the puzzle and interchangeable. Like you really got to get creative about how are you going to instill in this person, we care about you, you're valuable, you're an individual, we're not going to treat you like everyone else, you got different skill sets, got different preferences. That's got to be committed and communicated from day one. And something that we used to do that I thought was very well received is plan a leadership lunch with that new technician within the first week or two. So like they're going through onboarding and doing everything, but then the manager, the director, takes out that new person for just a dedicated lunch. Like you could go with the cafeteria, right? But like you buy their lunch, sit down and just talk directly to the technician, treat them like a human being again and a valuable part of the team, and take time out of that leadership schedule to actually do that. Like we had just tremendous feedback. I don't know, like have y'all had any of those other kinds of specialized experiences during your onboarding?
I usually did like coffee in the morning.
Yeah.
Or drinks or, orange juice, whatever they wanted to drink. I'd buy them whatever they wanted. And sit down and just talk about anything besides work. They want to talk about sports. I'm not a big sports fan, but, you want to talk about sports, I'll figure it out. Anything to get their mind thinking like, hey, maybe this could be a family-oriented department.
Right. What about you, Deannard?
Nope. I never did
no good experiences
in my entire leadership career, but it's a good idea.
I'm going to mentor you now to do it. I'm
going to start doing it too. But what I do, I just keep a presence on the floor. If someone's in decontam, I'll help them out. If they're in a tough area, I'll help them out. And that's the way I feel bonding takes place. Like, especially you doing endoscopes, like you never, somebody's overwhelmed. Like, hey, you know what? Take a little 5 minutes. I'll take that for you. Let's have a little conversation while we work. I'll find out about, what you're comfortable with, what you're not comfortable with, a little bit about the person during, on the shift, during work time. That's how I feel sometimes is a good way to bond. And then another thing too is explain things to your team. Don't just say, do this like this. Hey, put the bio hair. Why am I putting the bio hair? So they could teach the next person.
Means to the wise.
Right. Why is this? Why are we doing this? I know they said put this in the corner here on the second shelf. No, you want them to know why so that they could teach somebody else. So always teaching the why behind your practices, I think is always a good thing.
We got a couple more comments here too, and just some feedback on what we were talking about. Classroom integration. Everyone seems to think that that's a good kind of blending model there. Going back though to what we were talking about, throwing them in decontam first to see if they can hang. So Sarah says that's a toxic mentality and frankly a form of hazing if you're only doing it to see if they can hang in there. Very similar.
Where's the bomb? Where's the bomb button?
Yeah, I know. We're not on the process now.
Man.
Okay, chill. I can't do a bomb, but let me see. I got an That's the best that I can do. So
you need to mentor him.
I need to mentor
audience poll.
How to
not the bomb.
Encourage engagement with the audience. I'm just kidding.
Yes. Okay. So the most boring people ever in that little audience poll thing. Yeah. So we see that in kind of like first year of college, like engineering programs, math programs, science, even law school. They try to fail you out in the first year to kind of weed you down. Well, that works great if you've got more people in the pipeline than what you have seats for. The problem is in sterile processing, we don't have enough people in the pipeline. We can't afford to haze them out. What we want to do, like, even though, yeah, like that's a bad thing to do to begin with, but we can't even afford to do it, even if it wasn't. We need to identify before they even get in the door, pre-qualify this person for, hey, do you have what it takes before we offer you the job to do this job, to commit to this job, to learn, to grow. I don't know about y'all, but I did not like the sight of blood, and I still don't like the sight of blood. And I'm, 13 years into the industry. If I would have been out at the very beginning, if that was a question, which I think it was, and I probably I don't know if I didn't answer it, if I answered it, kind of halfway, but if they would have cut me out of the beginning, I never would have even got into sterile processing because I just didn't like it. Now I got over it enough to go through sterile processing and see all the gross stuff that we see in decontamination, but
I
still
tell you
don't
what,
like
though,
it.
Hank, what really helped me grow was at a location. Two things really happened. A particular service line took me in and educated me almost the scrubbing fully to a case.
Okay.
They taught me the reasons why they're using the instruments. I saw a little 4-3 be done on a patient, which is peeling, down the face of a patient. And that was the coolest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Then the other thing that happened was one of those service line doctors had lunch with me. I was just sitting there by myself, minding my own business. And this guy sits down and says, "Hey, Sean, how you doing?" I'm like, "Who are you? Why are you talking to me?" And it was a new surgeon. He sat down with me, had a lunch. We didn't talk about work. We talked about family and, just the outside, the mentality. And before he left, he shook my hand. He brushed the crumb off his beard before he put the mask back up. No, I'm just kidding. And he said, "I can't do my job without you. And I appreciate you and what you all do down at SPD." And it really hit me hard, like, hey, I can make a difference. I think we need to have more, to your point, we need to have the doctors buying more to the sterile processing. But I think also to the point of education and onboarding, if you're doing an onboarding program, if you're doing a training program, you got to get your new hires in the OR. Open to close see a case. And I'm not talking about lab coolie. You can learn a lot during a lab coolie.
Yeah.
But get them up there to see, a true case. If you can see a trauma case.
I mean, first case I ever saw was a robotic prostatectomy. So they threw me right into to the
My first case was lap coolie because I got stuck with one of the instruments.
Okay.
And I wanted to see what the instrument did. So
yeah, shout out to Nasir Evans. He talks about a lot of things. But that's one of the primary things that he has brought up, for years now, of the need to get our technicians into the operating room. Obviously, lots of people talk about that, but I just want to give a shout out to him. Go ahead, Deannard.
Piece of advice for everyone, especially the young students coming in, or even the schools, Dante, you listening. I think the CIS and the CRCST should be taught simultaneously if possible. For the for your schools coming up, because when I did my internship, I asked the manager where I was interning, "Hey, can I go to the OR so I could get my 4 hours for my CIS at the same time?" So you could, once you're in the facility, you could get that done, simultaneously. So you could get.
Can we hit on that topic real quick? If possible, I think it's your show, but it's your call. The internship part.
Internship.
I'm gonna go with it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with it.
Surprise me, Sean.
So it's really odd that a school wants to have an unpaid internship.
Okay.
They get the 400 hours.
Yeah.
And then
that's interesting.
I had a person who didn't finish the program. They already worked for me, at my location, and they already had the 400 hours. They went and got certified. But didn't finish the course because they had to do 400 hours unpaid. Now, for me, for a school, they should, in my opinion, if an employee or a person is willing to go get a job in sterile processing, make that advancement, that initiative, they should honor that 400 hours, but they would not. So, how do we all feel out there on the live feed about
what do you think?
Unpaid internship?
Unpaid internship, is that a thing? What's your feedback there?
With unpaid internships, I personally, I'm a do what you have to do to get ahead type of person.
Okay.
Like, don't wait for anyone. If you have the ambition to get it done, paid, unpaid. I have a couple of ladies right now interning, and I don't know how they do it, but they're there just about every day. So
I'll tell you one of the bigger challenges, Sean, to that. Well, maybe not bigger than that, but associated with that is I see a lot of folks out there who say they can't get in to do their hours. It's like no one will even let them in on a volunteer basis even to do their hours. And so they're in this kind of weird scenario where they've completed the coursework if they can't get their hours. And that has happened again and again and again and again. So a lot of challenges, a lot of gaps. And actually that was one of the topics I wanted to cover on this show was, what are the current gaps out there in terms of education? Like you brought up a good one, Deannard, on can we kind of package, can we think bigger than the CRCST or the CBSDT? And I've been advocating for that, like, as y'all know, forever. Like we treat certification in the industry as if it's this mountaintop, and really it's like the front door. It's the beginning of all of the learning. It's not, I'm here, I've arrived, now I know everything, I'm the subject matter expert. That's not what it is. But we still it's still systemic across the industry that folks feel like once they get that, they're the end all be all. And I push back against that. Like we talk a lot about that at Beyond Clean, the need to go beyond the book learning into the hands-on, to your point, but even deeper into the competency training. That's one of the reasons, to give a little personal shout out, that we launched the Beyond Clean micro credential last summer, to get to that competency piece. Like, do our people know how to put all these pieces together, not just do like a multiple choice quiz? I like that you mentioned, like, you make your students write essays, right? Like, you're not going to be able to successfully write an essay about a topic if you don't have some kind of grasp on how all the pieces put together. But what's unique again about the Beyond Clean micro credential, outside of any other certification that we have in sterile processing, is it is built without walls. It's the only credential out there that I'm aware of that any clinician in all of perioperative services can take that micro credential and learn the things that they need to learn and know about sterile processing to successfully support us. So the surgeon can take the micro credential, the nurse, the surgical tech, the anesthesiologist, like the patient support advocate, environmental services, everybody on this whole perioperative flow can take this micro credential, learn the critical importance of sterile processing plays, and now hold the same credential. So we've all got the same knowledge around cross-contamination, and then can bring that to play. And nothing else out there does that, because everyone's got their own certifications. IP's got their own certifications, OR nursing, everybody's got their own certifications, and nobody's really breaking through that. And so we built that model, to address that one gap. But thank you. Boom. Hold on. There's an audience poll. Okay, we got to get a better one than that. Okay.
But you know what, hey, what on that is, what I really love seeing is facilities that will support certification amongst the SPD world. People want to show that on their name badge.
Yep.
I'm certified.
That's something to be proud about. It really is.
90% of the facilities that I have visited, not just in PA, or across states, they don't let that be recognized on their badging. But no offense to nurses, their RN or MSN or CRNA, whatever his other credentials are there, they're allowed to have them on their badge. Why cannot sterile processing have it be on their badge, or a little hang tag that says, hey, I'm certified?
Right. Yeah, so I've got an opinion on that, but Deannard, you're my guest. So what's your opinion on that first?
Well, I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing to show, but people don't even know what sterile processing is in the first place. Like, we need to get the education out there, and I challenge the schools to diversify and do a little bit more. I challenge HSPA to do a little bit more in terms of education, because what we have now, it's okay, but it could definitely be better.
Yeah. So I think there's tactical reasons, Sean, for the differences, right? RN programs and the level of education that's required to get an RN versus the level that's required to get our certifications. Like, there's a big gap, right? And interestingly enough, and this is kind of an intramural debate between the two certification organizations, but unless something has changed here recently, one certification organization has 4 certifications. Only one of them is actually accredited. And the other ones, they're true certifications, but they're not accredited. So that argument's really easy. It's like, well, like, who can decide to just make a certification? Like, can Beyond Clean make a certification, and then we start putting letters behind people's names and badges if it's not accredited by a national organization? So on the other side, the other certification group also has 4 certifications. I think 2 of their certifications are accredited, but the other 2 are not. So if we're really holding like what the standard is, and that's kind of the question that you're asking, like, who sets the standards? Why do some people that we work with in hospitals get to put all the letters behind the name, and others of us either don't get to put all of them or don't get to put any of them? And that is really frustrating,
because if it's state mandated, I think you should have that ownership on your badge.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But I want to be BC certified. When I get my Beyond Clean.
Beyond Clean.
I think that'll be the first one I'll put after my name, and then my CRCS. I want to be BC certified.
There you go. Well, I'll tell you, we don't have any plans on doing any certifications anytime soon. I know that's always a question that folks have. And And, reason being, and this actually goes back to the mentorship conversation that we've had too, because we've had a lot of folks call us and say, hey, like Beyond Clean's doing awesome things. Like y'all should do a mentorship program. And, truthfully, there's members of our team that do mentorship programs. Like I've had mentorship programs. Lindsay Brown does mentorship programs. And we all do that outside of Beyond Clean because we believe in the value, everything that we've been talking about today. But every group out there is skilled at doing specific things and meeting specific gaps in the industry. We all can't do everything that needs to get done. I think all of our certification organizations, they have a place, they have a role to play. I think Beyond Clean obviously has a role to play in a lot of things we're doing. There's a lot of other groups out there. There's a lot of even other podcasts like The Process out there that has a role to play in the space. And as long as we all keep our eyes on the ball and keep doing those things that we're really good at, and then encouraging everyone else out there that's passionate about something else like mentorship to, hey, like build your mentorship program. I will support you. I'll encourage you, but we all can't do everything that needs to get done. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to do those things that we're best at as good as we can, and we should. So let me get to some of the comments here. We're at an hour, but guys, we're kind of flowing here pretty smooth. You want to go another?
I got nothing but time.
Okay.
Yeah, another round.
Another round?
Oh yeah. We'll get another round here. Maybe go. Well, yeah, we'll get another round. Get to some of the comments. If you have any topics that you want us to tackle here in the next 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes, please drop them in the comments section and we'll get to them. So got a question, or I got a comment here. I'm not exactly sure what question it's referring to, but they say, I asked that question to my HR and was told that the CRCST is a certification, not a license. And that's why we couldn't have it on our badge. Yeah, that's the kind of conversations.
What state are they from? Can you say?
It's hard to see. Yeah, this is their name's not coming across here, so I'm not sure who that is. But yeah, if it's if you're still tuning in and you can let us know what state that is, we are kind of curious because I like your point.
If it's state certified, is it already is it a state bill?
Yeah, if it requires it, I agree. If your state requires it, I think it should be on your badge. I think that's a very clear, simple thing to say, hey, if you're making me do this, then I should get the respect and the recognition clinically that I got it on my badge. So yeah, I think that's a great point.
And I believe don't wait for anyone. Create some badges for your team. They could put it behind their original badge. Create some badges for your team. Give it to them. Hey, the holiday's coming up. Hey, give them a little certification badge. Go to Amazon. You could create a nice little badge on Amazon. They could snap it behind this original badge and hang below and say certified.
We can make our own, man.
We could make our own.
A side hustle, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So somebody makes those little badge reels. I forget who's out there, but there's probably a couple folks out there that make the badge reels. But yeah, you could put your CRCST on the badge reel. Yeah. So
people don't wait for. I'm a firm believer. If you could do it yourself, do it yourself.
Is it, Lorraine? Is it a bill in your state?
Nope.
Okay,
no,
so that might be
not required.
That might be part of the problem, or maybe.
What's up, Brandaloon?
That might be part of the solution.
Yeah.
All right. So Dante says drink. Okay.
Drink.
So
I guess we're drinking.
Yeah. So going back to the gaps in education, like we talked. Well, actually, no. I queued up probably 20 minutes ago the multi-site support, and we didn't get to that. So let's get to multi-site support and the clinics and everything. So, Sean, when you're supporting and training and even consulting around the system as you are, I'm sure you're kind of running into, similar challenges. And you said really at the very beginning that standardization or consistency is one of those challenges. Give us a couple of examples of the kinds of things industry-wide that these multi-site systems are encountering today.
So my biggest pet peeve is wrapping. That's no shy about it. I still have the claim to fame that I'll beat anybody wrapping a tray. Oh. But, people put out wrapping and they teach how to wrap, and, they're not covering that first, of the glass. You're not covering that first fold. It's not fully covering the tray. And an AAMI standard, I think it's section 10. It states that it has to go up and over. And I walk into a facility and wrapping should be 101 in my opinion. When I was learning how to wrap, I wrapped a mud box as we call it, for 8 hours. I wrapped the same tray for 8 hours, and until I mastered that roll. It's a hard it's a hardship to encompass standardization if all facilities are not going to support that same level of professionalism that we should be giving our patients. Even placement for PCDs.
Yeah, that seems like that would be the easiest.
It would be
one
the
in
easiest one you would think, but some some locations, across the world, put the packs up this way or on the sides or on top of a wrap tray, or standardization really should start out with leadership down to
Right.
the person training, and then back up.
And so the person training, though, it goes back. I forget who said that today on the comment section. Sorry, but someone brought up, hey, like no one's got educators today, or it's like very rare to have a dedicated educator. And even if you do, newsflash, many of y'all still don't have the time to educate everybody in your facility, and you definitely don't have time to be doing like system-wide education. Like I really think
and competencies every year.
Yeah, you're doing a terrific job, it sounds like, Sean, but even that role is too big. Like you almost need multiple educators to support the 40 sites or locations that you're supporting, and that's like asking for a lot. I know, because you're lucky to just get one.
So there's something out there called a hub and spoke model.
Okay.
And this is kind of the path that we want to take it. Hub and spoke model. So basically on a bike you have a hub, and then you have spokes that go out. The hub would be your main training location or main educator or point person that would do the training. That person then could go to the different locations and educate, train, and comp those smaller locations that wouldn't have the ability to have a true dedicated educator.
Yep. I love that model because you can focus all your energy on getting that hub right, like really tight, great processes, great policies, like good experience. Everyone's happy there. If no one's not happy, to go work somewhere else. Like you got all the happy employees, all the good preceptors. And that way you get a great experience. They're taught the right way. They're taught the health system way, whatever way that is. And then they're sent out to those locations. I really think that's a great model. Go ahead, Deannard.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I just want to let you know I agree with that. Nice concept, and I'll definitely do it myself. Yeah, I'm learning here, guys.
That's mentorship.
It's working. You're seeing networking in action right here, ladies and gentlemen. We got a question here from Valeria. What suggestions do you have for CSPD leadership to be able to have more conversations for change with their report to person in the HR and the C-suite? So
I've done this numerous times.
Yeah. Well, kick us off, Sean. Tell us what's been success.
Deannard started.
Okay, go ahead, Deannard.
Are you sure?
You go.
So, one of the locations I worked at, honestly, it was a great smaller community hospital. I loved it. We actually made the president of the hospital throw on some scrubs. Come in the department.
You made them, or you politely
I don't want to say
requested them?
I personally made them, but maybe my boss made them. Okay, my boss says,
invited them to come down.
No, they actually, it was asked, and they
said, "Hey, you need to come down here. You need to see what's going on."
They did, because we were understaffed, and they wanted to know why things weren't getting done.
I love that. Okay.
So the president came down. Also, HR, the recruiter, all came down and spent a day in sterile processing.
That's important.
And I love that concept. And I really, if you're out there and you're an HR person or a VP, I would ask you to go down and spend an 8-hour day with a sterile processing department, throw scrubs on, throw some booty covers on, work an hour or two in decontamination. See how you can fix that air handler that's been outdated for 30 years.
We know that's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. But, at least they understand why we're talking about.
I mean, how can you recruit without even knowing what these people do that you're recruiting for? That sounds like the worst idea possible to be successful.
It is. And actually, I had, at the one location, HR actually put in overtime at an in-store processing to help out get through the hardships.
Wow.
They actually liked it a lot.
What about you, Deannard? What have you found successful in kind of escalating these conversations up to C-suite or to HR? Because, yeah, we've got a million reasons, right? Like we need more staff. We need specialized staff. Maybe you need another supervisor. You're trying to get this educator justified. Like, how do you have those conversations?
Okay, so mine might not be the popular response.
Give it to us.
I think once you, when first day you walk in the door, you should be, as a leader, you should be thinking of all that already. Unless you're maybe a new manager, even if you're a new manager or supervisor, you should be thinking of, okay, you've been in sterile processing a few years now, a few months at least. You should know the pain points: staffing, equipment, retention of staff, and et cetera, et cetera. So you know those things, so you have to build those relationships before you actually need it. That's why going back to the chapter situation, you want to engage before you want something. You don't, when your washer breaks down, you need a new washer, you should know, hey, that washer has 2,000 cycles on it, it's 20 years old. Before you need a new one, build that relationship so that when you give the ask, like, oh, that's Deannard. He's been speaking to me about cell processing, the issues, how it works, how it runs, and now he needs a new washer. I totally understand. I get it.
Right.
Don't wait till you need a new washer to go and try and write 10 pages and go to Amy and all the other sites and pull up information and documentation. Those relationships should have been done when you got in the door.
I agree.
So that brings up an article I wrote for a couple years ago now, probably, and the title was "Become a Triple Threat Sterile Processing Leader." And the triple part is, technical. That's kind of where we all start at the technician level. We learn how to do the job. Relational is, part of what you're talking about, and that's just getting to know the other people in our department, outside our departments. But then the third one is political. And that's also kind of what you're saying too, because you got to be aware that you are competing for dollars with other departments. It's not like there's just infinite money out there and you just got to make a good case and you're going to get some of that infinite money. It's no, the OR wants those dollars, radiology wants those dollars, emergency room wants those dollars, and they're all making their own case. They're all justifying with their own industry guidelines, the saying that they needed. It's a competitive world out there. And if you're not coming prepared and having those relationships, and this is what's important, it's not always the best case that wins. It's, hey, who is that C-suite leader, that CNO, that CFO, like who do they know isn't going to leave them alone if they say no?
So two things to touch base on. Again, touching base with those people ahead of time. People reach out to me, hey, capital's not getting approved. How can I do that? And my simplistic thing is talk to your, financial people on a regular basis and tell them your hardships and what you're looking for the next 1, 2, 3, 5 years for your department.
Right.
Get them in that mindset, like, hey, in this time frame, we're going to need this equipment or these.
I really like
cards.
that, like multiple years down the road, because you can kind of make a deal.
Yeah.
Politically speaking, say, okay, OR, I'm not going to put in a request this year, but in exchange, I want you to support our request next year for this new sterilizer, this new cart washer. I really, really like that idea.
But
like looking down the timeline.
I'm not going to bash my own self, but if the OR is getting capital and they're expanding rooms and growing 5, 10 more rooms, and an SPD is still in a room like you see behind us, it's already too late.
Right.
So in the planning process of a construction, and I'm not trying to change the subject of that, but the sterile processing leadership out there, we need to get involved in construction before they start breaking ground.
Yeah.
So then we can support the OR growth now and future for what department you're in now or what you may be working in.
It's just like a Siamese twin.
We can't work without each other. You can't add on 20 more cases a day and only have 10 trays.
Right.
And you have down 5 people.
It's always forgotten. Like that's forgotten in the robotic conversation. They'll buy new robots and no one will think, oh, hey, someone's got to clean these things.
Takes an hour and a half.
They'll add on more cases or they'll build more rooms. And yeah, that happens on and on and on. So I want to go back to some comments, and then I want to talk a little bit more about clinic support here, Deannard. And I'm going to throw that one over to you, because what also happens, just like what Sean's talking about with the OR rooms, is we'll add on more and more clinics. Like new clinics will just come online, and then you wake up and you're like supporting 50 clinics this year and last year you're supporting 10, and you don't have any more staff, no more equipment, no more time, but everything's still being expected to support your local facility and all the clinics. I want to talk to you about that. But first, a couple comments here. So we got a comment from Dante. How can we at scale get HR and hospital administrators to understand wage disparities in sterile processing? He had a call recently with a major health system who was suffering a staffing crisis with an entry level, moving there, of $16 an hour. He left the retail store Target the other day, and they had a career fair for entry level positions with no higher education training for $24 an hour. So, how do we tackle this? So, Deannard dropped a bomb a second ago and said, "I know you're looking for your bomb button." Said he had an unpopular opinion. So I'm going to give you an unpopular opinion here too. We need people. I want people in sterile processing. I want to keep passionate people. But if you can get paid more somewhere else and support your family and grow a career in retail, in real estate, become a fireman, like whatever that is that you need to do to get paid right now to support your family, like I'm not going to keep you here. In fact, I'm going to encourage you, go do that thing, because what's going to happen if you go do that thing and we lose you, that's a real loss in the industry because you've been trained, we've invested in you. That's a lot of time and effort that you're taking out of the industry. So that is a quantifiable loss, but you get paid the money that you need. And then we get to turn around to HR and say, listen, guys, like you keep doing this to us, you keep doing this $16 an hour, and we're going to keep losing these kind of people. And what happens, and you've probably seen this in your department, we look at our FTEs and we say, hey, we got 30 FTEs, and we lose 5 of those that each have 10 years experience. So that's 50 years experience that we lose. Well, HR says, hey, but I just gave you another 5. Yeah, but you gave me 5 with 0 years experience. So I lost 50 years experience and you gave me 0 years experience. Same count, same FTE total, but they're wondering why we're not reaching productivity
10 years.
And we're not doing our quality. Well, guys, it's because we're losing the people to these competitive industries that Dante's bringing up because of the wage disparity. So what are y'all's thoughts on that? Any other solutions?
I have a question for Hank.
Okay.
Do you think new hires should count towards productivity in the first 1-2 months time frame of their time?
Yeah. So I'm actually going to flip it back on you and say, I am so extreme that I think we should pay for productivity. Because right now, think about it, hold on with me, we pay everybody the same wage, regardless of how much they produce. So you're one of those people that, do 2 trays a day and you somehow get away with it. You get paid the same as, Shirley over here, that is the department workhorse that is just churning through, carrying the productivity for the whole department. And she's getting paid the exact same rate as, Johnny over here who's not doing anything. I think that is unfair. And I want to encourage our industry to find a creative way to pay for productivity. Lots of industries do it. In fact, our surgeons, get paid more for more surgeries that they produce. They get bonuses and everything else. And they're not sacrificing quality to do more surgery. So I don't buy that argument either.
Hope not.
I think we can balance productivity, quality, and incentivize the Shirleys of the world, the hard workers that can really churn out the productivity, still keep the quality high, keep those people because we're paying them more for their productivity. That's my controversial
so you're telling
opinion
me
here.
You want to pay people to perform more than 28 trays in an 8-hour day?
No, not more than 28. So what I would,
so typically it's 32. Right?
I wrote a article probably 4 years ago called something like "What if we paid for productivity?" kind of thing. And the model that I laid out there was we take the productivity baseline of the department and we say, on average, everyone's processing, we'll say 10 trays a day. And what I said is anybody who processes above the department average, that's a bonus tray. I'm not asking for you to like push the pedal to the metal and go as fast as you possibly can. But if you're processing above the department average, you're lifting up the department productivity, which means it's going to cost me less man hours total to process these trays because someone is just processing them so efficiently. It's raising up the standard. I think you need some kind of bonus. That's not the only way, but that's an idea. Deannard, you seem to
then
disagree.
You run into those people that do overtime all the time. So a bonus on top of their check for doing overtime.
No. But see, what this does is this takes overtime. The reason you need overtime is because you got the Johnnies out there that are doing 2 trays. That's the shame, is we're paying extra because we don't have that consistent level of productivity out there.
Why don't you discipline Johnny and get Johnny out of there?
Oh man, we only got 10 minutes left, guys. I'm going to try to discipline you now.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut it off, but I just think it's
no, that's fantastic.
It's a point.
Yep. Okay.
So you're going on to the clinics. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, I'm going to go to some more of these questions. I don't know if we're going to get the clinics, honestly, guys, because we got a lot of comments here. But that's a great conversation about discipline and productivity. Now I would love to talk about that maybe on round 2.
Round 2 for us.
Of the Biobourbon. Yep.
Back in February.
All right. So Brian says, I absolutely agree with that standpoint. The C-suite should always be invited to our departments. There's a huge disconnect between them and sterile processing. What I'm still trying to understand is why they aren't automatically involved being in those roles. Now, I don't know if all of y'all got a chance to listen to the Beyond Clean interview a couple of weeks ago, but we interviewed actually one of my mentors, going back to the mentorship piece, Ben Broderson, who started as a sterile processing technician, supervisor, manager, process improvement, the VP, and now he's the CEO of a hospital in North Carolina, came out of sterile processing to the very, very top. And what's really unique in that interview is we asked him, how has your perspective on administration changed? Because we all have opinions about the C-suite and, CEO down in sterile processing and all the things we're talking about, but now like he's lived both worlds. And what's really interesting, is he said what Deannard said earlier about vendors. He said, your C-suite are people too. If you can build a relationship with them, talk to them, communicate the challenges, the needs, the issues in your department, they will listen. Now that's hard because they're very busy. They're being pulled a million directions. Like, just imagine how many departments you have in the hospital, all the surgeons having on speed dial, all of the investors and everyone else like wanting their attention. There's a million things going on. So yes, I don't think it's always that they don't care. I think number one is that they don't know. To your point, a lot of administrators just have never been exposed to sterile processing in their whole career. They've not been invited to come down, or that they've not been forced to come down like Sean does with his administrators.
I got a job on Monday.
Yeah. But I think that's part of the solution. The other part is, honestly, a lot of what we do in digital content, they're not going to be coming to our conferences for the most part. They're not going to be reading our textbooks for the most part, but they are on LinkedIn, and they're getting exposed to content through LinkedIn, through all the various channels that we're tagging and having conversations that impact their job. So I think there are other creative ways, I guess is what I'm saying, to reach those guys.
You could always also just email them. Point blank, just email them, email the secretary and say, hey, I invite whomever to our 2:30 or 2 o'clock huddle. Come down, check it out. Let me know. Here's my number to give us a call and come down and hang out.
What I think is important, and this is a phrase we use another way, FaceTime. FaceTime is very important. When you have those meetings with the 300, 220 executive, wait till the end. Say, hey, I'm Johnny. I work in sterile processing. I'm the manager. I just wanted to share a few words with you, some of the issues we have, or some of the successes we have downstairs. Don't always start with the problems. Start with the successes. Hey, guys, we're doing this, we're doing that, we're doing that. We're doing this with our old washer came out in 1995. Let them know what you're doing well. And then start a conversation. Say, hey, by the way, I love your new Jaguar outside there. And then, yeah, you like Jags? Yeah, I like it. Just find something that you can relate to them with. And then that'll always be your sticking point whenever you see them. Hey, you like that? You like the pizza in the cafeteria? I think it's something. Like, engage with them so that when they see your name pop up, they're like, oh, That's
They're
Deannard.
just people too.
Yeah, they're just that's
They are.
that's Deannard.
Right.
Oh, what he need?
Don't be afraid of
what's
them.
that? Oh,
Yeah.
well, let's look into that.
So that's actually exactly what Randallin is saying here. You know, don't be afraid to be honest with them. Build those relationships, develop a program to get them into your departments on a regular basis. That's great feedback. Got another comment here from my man Sean. He has found that SPD leadership has to drive that relationship with the C-suites, particularly if the C-suites aren't as familiar with SPD connection to surgery. You literally have to make them aware, economically speaking. And yeah, that's exactly what we were saying earlier, Sean. So that's a great point. Frank Daniels, hey guys. Frank, very, very, very impressive high-level disinfection leader out there in Virginia. If you ever get a chance to go down to see Frank's place, which I'm planning on doing, Deannard, maybe we can plan a road trip together to go down to see Frank's place. Because I've heard like fantastic
wait a
things.
second.
I got the pickup ready. We could go.
No, I'm gonna ride on the back of your Segway. Do like a little wagon on the back, and
We
we're gonna
could
go
do that.
down to Virginia.
I'll meet you guys down there.
Yeah, we could do a buggy. We could make it a buggy.
So Frank says at the same time, it's hard to compete with the money that travelers are currently making now. Man,
I love that point.
how about
So why would you want to be? And I just had this conversation today. You know, a traveler is great. No disrespect to any travelers,
right?
but you don't have the compassion and the buy-in that
I mean, they may have the compassion.
they might have the compassion, but
Yeah.
to that location.
Right. Yeah.
That's what
yeah.
I mean.
They're
So
not like,
compassion
hey,
to,
like
like,
I'm
this
bought into
location.
Lancaster City, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I'm not
or
saying the
I'm all
travelers,
about Philly.
travelers are terrible, but I'm just saying
Yeah,
that
I get
you know,
that.
they're making double, triple the money, and
That's a
then they're
high-
gone in 6-8 weeks. 10
Basically,
weeks.
you have a hired gun.
Yeah.
That's all you have. You can't tell. You can't really direct them too much. They know what they know, and that's all they probably gonna know. If you have something innovative or inspirational to teach them, and they're willing to pick that up, good. But for the most part, you have a hired gun, and their skill is their skill.
But
Right.
I think they need to have a higher. This is just point blank. I think they need to have a higher set level of years of experience to be a traveler. I think
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about
boy,
that.
here
But
we
the
go.
thing is attrition. You just lost 2 folks last month. Somebody out on maternity. Two people have COVID, and it's just you.
So if you hire someone that has a year experience as a traveler and they can't assemble a basic heart tray because they never assembled a heart tray,
Yeah.
I want techs to have 2 years experience to be a traveler. That's just my opinion.
I mean,
because
two's not that much different than
It's
it's
one.
not.
Let me tell you the
but at
hard-
least it's better than one.
Let me tell you the hard
is.
truth. You get somebody 1 year experience, a couple months experience, you're throwing them in decon.
Okay. All right. Great job. Great job on the
that-
boom.
We can talk about for round 2, I think maybe. But we had this conversation today with the location. Like, the travelers are being paid way up here,
Yeah.
and they're not dedicated to the location they're working. They're in there for their
I'll tell you though,
assignment and they
Sean,
go.
like every sterile processing leader can make that determination. So the reason that there are travelers with 1 year experience is because we're letting them come into our departments. That's the end of the story.
No,
Like if
I
we
agree.
told them, no, we're not going to hire any 1 years, then we would not be submitted 1 years. But to Deannard's piece, like we need the bodies
I
and
agree
we're
on it. So we
willing
need
to
the bodies, so,
compromise.
yeah.
Like, you go in
Yeah.
decon because there is inspection after decontam. That's why you go in decon. Not because you're good in decontam. It's because I could inspect your trays. There's a second level of inspection after decontam. That's the only reason why you're back there. Not
Do you
because
put travelers in all areas, or are they only in decontaminant?
no, but
assembly?
if it's just me and my lead tech, you go in decon. You know, because
all I'm
Right.
saying is when you have a traveler, do you put them in decon and assembly, or do you put them on all the stations like case card
Sterilization,
picking,
yeah, case card.
scopes?
you definitely need a little perception. I need to gauge your work before you get, to be on your own. You
Yeah,
know?
the competency piece is another
Yeah.
key piece. So yeah, it's not just the year's experience, to your point, Sean, and that's even like there are traveler agencies out there that I think do a good job of digging into like what does this person actually know, and then what is the facility that I'm sending them to. So if it's hearts and they've never done hearts, they should not be sent to a place that does hearts. Go ahead, Deannard.
But then, let's say you were a place, your decontam had 5 washers, you had 5 sterilizers, you had a certain tracking system that starts with C. Then you go to another place with a tracking system that starts with S, or then you go to another place with no tracking system. So it's like you know your job, but you do not know how to put that into practice in different location. You know,
That's that orientation.
Well,
though,
I agree
is-
pretty.
yeah.
But I had a traveler one time, and this traveler had 5+ years experience. Couldn't put together a tray without asking 21 questions on how to test the scissor and test the instruments.
Wow.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I'm like, you've been,
But
you know,
going back to Deannard's piece again, like the reason that we have travelers is because we don't have people and we don't have time. So the last thing that we have time to do is when we get travelers to train them and do competencies. Even though, like I think you need to do it, and so does the Joint Commission, by the way. They require competencies on your travelers. So if you don't have those documented,
Please
you're
do it.
out of compliance and you're at risk for being cited. But we're already tight on staffing. We already don't have a dedicated educator. So we're paying these guys a premium to train them, Sean?
Yeah.
I mean, like literally,
I'm paying
not all of them.
$50 an hour to read competencies.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Man, guys, so we're just getting warmed up here. We're at an hour 30, but something tells me that you guys are not quite done yet. So let's take a couple more questions here.
I mean, I'm
and
good
see
as long as
how
you're
it's
good.
going. Okay. It's a long way back to Philly on the Segway for Deannard.
I gotta get.
It's
I
nighttime
can
now.
take you, man. It's all right. I got you.
Okay.
You got lights in the front though.
All right. So got some comments here from Valeria. The metrics in many hospitals to determine how many FTEs are needed to successfully run SPD needs to change. What metrics do you use? There's a lot of people out there who this is one of their favorite conversations and topics. I know Cody Trout down in Tennessee loves talking about productivity metrics as tied to FTEs. I do too. I kind of nerd out on this. What are your thoughts about what kinds of metrics? Like, how should we be measuring and calculating how many people we need to do the job?
So I think, and I know a lot of managers are going to like me about this. So I think it's on the leadership team to put processes in place to make it as easy. I think easy is an easy word, but to make the processes, no pun intended, to make the processes, put processes in place so that the least amount of staff could work through those processes as possible. So, so
as efficiently as possible.
Yes.
Boom,
Yep. Boom.
Boom.
Hold on. We're gonna do this little thing here. Okay, for everyone tuning in who has no idea what that is, you should have started with us earlier. Okay.
So you want to make your processes as efficiently as possible. So my mindset in leadership, I want to put processes in place so that one person could run the department, 1 or 2 people. So I think every leader should have that in mind. Doesn't matter if you say 20, whatever your staffing matrix says.
Right.
You want to make this so that 2 people, worst case scenario, snowstorm, hurricane, the world's ending. You want to make sure 2 people could run this department effectively. So that's my mindset in my department. So anything I have after that is icing on the cake. Not that I want 3 people,
Right.
Not that I want 4 people, but I know worst case scenario, 2 people could do this job and provide the OR and the ancillary departments with what they need.
So I want to speak, another hot take here. And let's just be honest, guys, right? So we all have in some form or fashion gamed the system when it comes to productivity, not because we want to game the system, but because we know we need people and the metrics are not accurately reflecting the people that we need, to Valeria's point. And so there's all kinds of nuances, right? Like, are you counting containers that you're washing for productivity? Are you counting case carts? Like, how much work are you really doing on the case cart? You're pushing it into the cart washer, but you're getting 20 minutes per case cart with it. But we'll take the time because we also know we're not getting enough time if we're tied to like surgical cases or surgical minutes, or the loads process is not set at the right standard because they're constantly squeezing us more and more to do more with less, which kind of segues into the clinic conversation. But yeah, what's your thoughts, Sean? Like, is there a metric out there that captures?
You went from here to here, so let's just bring it to here and let's hit those clinics.
Let's get those clinics.
Honestly, the metric, it's always a hardship, and yes, the metric needs to improve. How to improve on that is do studies, do time-based studies. Let's talk about loaners real quick. You get an S company coming in with 12 trays. Start the timer. How long to get through the 3-bay sink, the sonic, rinse it off into the washer.
Per the IFU.
Out, IFU, bring it up on the assembly side, let it dry because it comes out, 200 degrees, it burns your fingers off, right?
Yep.
Inspection time. Start the timer at the inspection time.
That's right. Do the calculations.
Do the calculations. And then do that hard data, which is really what nobody wants to do.
Yep.
But that's how you're going to change your metric.
Yeah.
And then wrap it or put it in a pod or put it in a containerized, whatever you have in your facility. Run it, cool it, count your BI, put it on your shelf or in your case card after it's cool and the BI is read out. Then stop your timer and you're going to get your true time frame.
Right.
We know it takes 4 hours to turn over one tray in the perfect world setting. But Deannard.
But you have to get rid of those redundant processes you have in place, not because you're assigned or you budgeted for 40 people.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you have to stamp your paperwork, your load sticker, your printout, like all those redundant processes. You gotta get rid of that.
I don't even count
pushing for efficiency.
Push, pull, put away is what I count.
Yeah.
But here's the challenge here that both you guys are kind of pulling up is there is a number of how long does it take us, and there's another number of how long should it take us, and that's kind of what you're getting at, and that's what we really need to be pushing toward. We're all building productivities on, it takes Johnny this long to assemble a major tray, and so we're going to build a whole productivity around Johnny, but no one's really pushing Johnny and saying, but is he really making the most efficient use of his time on those trays? And is that the benchmark we want to use? Like benchmarks, that's like a round 3 for Biobourbon.
Do you use a senior tech, or do you use someone that's newer? And what I did was a fun study I did. I took a senior tech and a new tech with about a month and a half in, 2 months in. And I introduced instrument testing because, we didn't test every instrument. We didn't have the means to do so. I introduced it into the facility. Every instrument had to be tested.
Good.
And if it was caught that they weren't, they started the tray or the unit all over again. So this person was like, I've been doing this for 5 years. I can whip this tray together. But then I introduced instrument testing, and they're like, this is going to take too long. So I had the new hire do it and the senior tech do it. And the new hire was a minute quicker than the senior tech.
Because they had learned along the way testing.
Because the new tech was already incorporated in doing these standpoints.
Yeah.
Funny point is, after the senior tech got accustomed to doing it, they were 30 seconds off. So do those standpoints.
So we need more data. Yeah, we need more data because without the data, we're not going to be able to effectively benchmark. But I get the question all the time. I'm sure y'all have got questions. How many trays per hour should a sterile processing tech be processing?
28.
Well, no, that's not
280.
Yeah,
10 kerosene trays.
That's not the right question, and we can't give you an answer to that. Okay, so we're gonna wrap up here in the next 5 minutes. We're gonna give you guys a break, and we're gonna give us a break too. But we've had a fantastic time. I want to reference a couple more comments here and then give some closing comments to our tremendous guests. I love these comments that give me a little shout out. So I'm going to highlight here. DJ said that I took a chance on him when he was 1 year of experience. It was his first travel assignment and he was extended for 3 contracts. Thanks a lot. So to that point, I don't remember if you remember this, DJ, or not, but in the interview process, when I'm interviewing travelers, it's funny, they all give those self-assessments and they're all 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're all 5 on every category. They know everything about everything. Why would you rate yourself any lower than a 5? But I asked them random questions that you really have to be thoughtful and engaging in the industry. What does a buoy dick test actually test? Can you tell me that? And I was shocked and surprised at how many travelers, 5 rating, like you said, 5 years experience, couldn't answer those questions. But these newbies, and this is going back to something that Deannard said, these schools, you get a good school or a good training program, like Sean's program, you're graduating out 6 months. And that technician, they may only have 6 months, but they are engaged. They're learning. They're soaking it up. They want to be compliant. They're bought in. I'll put that 6-month technician up against a lot of 5-year technicians that are not all those ways. So it does not come, and I don't want to put us in the same situation that we were talking about earlier, that you got to put in your time, because that's not always true. What you got to do is you got to commit to educating yourself and not only relying on the letters or the test or the resume. You really got to know your stuff. So that's kind of my challenge takeaway today.
I agree with that 100%.
Wrap us up, Sean. What's your last word here?
We save lives one tray at a time. Stand true to that. Hold true to that. That's my sentence I tell all the new hires. We directly affect the patient's outcome. So my coin phrase is we save lives one tray at a time.
Awesome. And Deannard.
Yeah, I should have started with this. I just want to say thank you to Hank Balch.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you to Beyond Clean. Thank you to Sean
Thank you.
For incorporating me, including me in this. And thank you to all our sterile processing professionals out there. Thank you for all the work that you do. Whether you left, you're a nurse now, you're in the C-suite, you're a manager. Thank you guys. You saved lives in the past, and hopefully we continue to do it together.
Yes, thank you all.
All right. Yeah. Thank you both again, for coming in tonight to be live and in person. Really unique event. Great conversation. I had no idea how it was going to go, what we were going to talk about, but it went well.
End on a cheer or toast.
Yes. Cheers.
Cheers.
And toast to more of these digital networking opportunities in sterile processing. Please challenge yourself, challenge your own chapter, as we started talking about earlier. Like, be creative about your chapter content, how you engage, what you do, and who you do it with. Don't get the same old speakers you've had for the last 20 years. Like, bring in some new blood, bring in some new voices. Like, that does matter, and it does engage. And if you're a part of a local chapter or you're not, go help these guys. Like, these kind of leaders, they need help getting the stuff done in the chapters. Like, you can't sit back and complain that your chapter's not doing anything or that it's not awesome and exciting if you're not also willing to step up and commit the time to make it happen. So again, not to end on the challenge out there, but we want you to take what you learned here, go back home and do some awesome, amazing things. And as we love to say on Beyond Clean, keep fighting dirty.